What's up, YouTube, and welcome in, Bears fans. Today, we're going to be talking about if the Bears beating the Packers in Week 18 really matters, and we'll be putting the Chicago Bears head coaching candidates into a tier list. Thank you for joining me today. This is the Lindeman Show. I am your host, Cody Lindeman, and before we hop into those topics, I'd like to ask you to please go down right below the video, hit the red subscribe button. Hit the like button. It is a great way to show support and is totally free. And please leave a comment today. I'm going to be talking about some more controversial issues about the Bears season closing out here and what they'll do next at the head coaching position. Would love to hear your thoughts on it and what you think the Bears should be doing in the head coach hiring process and what you thought about the Bears finally beating the Packers for the first time since 2018 down in the comments. So let's get right into it. Bears beating the Packers, does it matter? I'm leaning towards no. It doesn't feel like it really matters for the Bears season, just in so many ways. I was thinking about this win and I said to myself, beating the Packers has never felt so bad. To start off, I want to say I didn't watch the game live. I had another engagement I had to be at. And I think that matters. It shouldn't matter that I didn't watch the game live, but it feels like it takes some of the excitement out of it, some of the angst in the rivalry. I feel like that's lost when you watch the game later. And I knew what the score was, I knew what the outcome was going to be when I went back and watched the game. So I think that really made a difference in my view and made it less exciting and less appealing to watch, and maybe made it feel less important. It doesn't feel like a moral victory with the Bears beating a bunch of backups. Yes, Packers starters did start the game, and some of them played longer than others. Of course, Jordan Love left the game, and that kind of felt like the Packers throwing in the towel, and the Bears still barely won. It kind of gave me flashbacks. I don't remember the year exactly off the top of my head, but a few years back, before the Eberflus era started, the Bears had a game very similar, Week 18. They were playing the Vikings, I believe, and the Vikings did not play any of their starters. They played only their backups, wanted to keep their starters healthy, moving forward, believed they were going to the playoffs. And the Bears went out there. They won. They beat the Vikings, but they barely beat the backups. They struggled to beat the second-string Vikings team. And this felt very similar to me. Even though the Packers went out, they did have a lot of their starters. They ended up getting Watson hurt. Love was injured-ish. He left the game because he was kind of injured. And then turns out he's basically fine. Could have gone back in. But Matt LaFleur, after having two of his players injured, said, I'm done with that, and didn't have him go back in. But it felt very similar. It felt like the Bears, for a majority of the game, played backups, and it didn't feel like they deserved to win the game. Like the game just kind of fell into their lap, almost like the Packers out-batted them. Like both teams played sloppy, played some bad football at times, and the Packers were just the worst team instead of the Bears who were truly the better team. One positive out of it is Caleb Williams has a game-winning drive that he does everything right, and the Bears finally get a win. I was happy to see that for Caleb. He's had multiple game-winning drives all season long, and in those game-winning drives, it feels like he sets the team up for success, and then the team fails them. It was generally Matt Eberflus, but maybe it's the defense, maybe it's Tyreek Stevenson not being in place, it's not knocking down a ball, it's not stopping them from getting 18 yards, it's having a field goal blocked in the first Packers game, not calling timeouts in the Lions game, not scoring in overtime, not making the stop in overtime, whatever it is. It just seems like there are so many times Caleb Williams in the fourth quarter made the plays that needed to be made to win the game, and then someone else usually let him down. Sometimes, like in the Vikings game in overtime, when he went out there and went 3 and out in the first offensive possession for the Bears, Caleb did a great job getting the Bears there, but then Caleb also kind of let himself down by not doing more there. So it's really good to finally see one of those drives pay off for Caleb, that he put together a great drive with less than a minute remaining, pushed the ball downfield for the first time pretty much all game. The Bears had a clean operation with that last pass to DJ Moore, got up there, spiked the ball with just enough time, 2 seconds. Cairo Santos went out, made a good clean pass at the ball, put it through the uprights, Bears win, time for celebration. So I was really, really happy to see that. But it doesn't feel like it mattered at all. Like I just felt I didn't feel any happiness when the Bears won, or when I found out they won. I was upset they lost the draft position. And granted, it only lost them a couple picks. Like, I don't think that the Bears losing this game is really going to cost them a lot in the draft. It only cost them a couple positions at most. And, well, I guess just a couple positions, right? We know where they're going to be drafting at 10. They're going to get a top 10 prospect. And I don't know if them winning this game and dropping down to 10 really changes who they were going to be able to draft. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. We won't know until obviously after the draft and we see how that top 10 plays out. But I don't know if this loss really cost the Bears the ability to draft who they wanted to. But just the fact that that's a possibility made me kind of upset that the Bears lost the game. And like I said, I don't think they gained anything from it. They played Packers backups. Caleb didn't play well. Like he had that drive at the end like I talked about, and I'm really happy one of those drives finally did pay off for Caleb Williams. He has that game-winning drive under his belt. He won at Lambeau. That's cool. It's one of those things I don't think it matters at all. But he's undefeated at Lambeau. That's just something cool to say. Like I said, I don't think it matters. But more importantly, that drive paid off, and I don't think that really means anything. But it just feels good as a fan to see Caleb, who's done the right thing so many times, and the right thing finally ends in a win, even though he didn't really do anything for the rest of the day. Like he had the touchdown pass to DJ Moore, which was really DJ Moore just getting the ball and doing his thing. Like Caleb didn't feel like he pushed the ball downfield at all. In fact, it felt like the Bears ran exclusively screens and run plays until that final drive where he made those 2 throws kind of down the field. It didn't feel like Caleb was really doing much quarterbacking. It felt like he was mostly just running for his life and then throwing the ball away, which quite honestly has felt like most of the season. But that's neither here nor there. But the number one reason, or I guess like the top 3 reasons I don't feel that this matters. First reason, professionalism, right? If the Bears are full of professional players, which they are, they should go out there and they should compete every game as hard as they can, no matter what. And credit to the Bears, in a game that didn't feel like they were going to win, that didn't matter, that basically had 0 ramifications even for the Packers. It turns out it didn't have any ramifications. But a game that felt like it didn't matter at the end of a really long, hard season, with a 10-game losing streak going, the Bears went out there and played. And I think that's what they should do, right? If you're a professional, you should go out there and play as hard as you can every single game. A lot of players talk about that, like talking about putting it on tape or for pride or dignity or whatever it is. Like, this is their profession, so every time they go out there, they should be proud of it. The Bears, to their credit, were, and that's why they were able to win the game. But even if they didn't win the game, then they should come out with that same attitude with the next game, right? If you can do it after losing 10 games, then I think you can do it after losing 11. So that's why I think that's one of the reasons that I don't think that win matters as much as it might seem like it does, is because of the professionalism. The next thing is, it's next year, the next game they play is going to be a new season, right? So if you can't come out with your hair on fire for a new season, if you can't come out and be excited and play as hard as you can for a new season, it just doesn't feel like you'll be excited for anything really, right? It's a brand new slate. Everyone's 0-0 on the season. It's your chance to be 1,000, right? If you go win that game, you have a win percentage of 1, right? So that's an opportunity, and that's just a special circumstance with this game. Why it doesn't feel like it matters is because the next game it'll be the 2025 season, and the Bears won't have any of this. They'll be on an 11-game losing streak, but the record will be 0-0. And the final reason I feel like this game doesn't really matter is the Bears hopefully should have a brand new culture next time they come out on the field. They should have a new head coach, a new mantra, a brand new way of approaching the game, a new offense, someone who's going to be leading them out of the tunnel. They'll probably have a new defensive coordinator, a new offensive coordinator, a bunch of new coaches. Hopefully, like I said, a brand new culture, so the locker room should feel different. The hope of the new season should be there. The professionals who are going to go out and try their hardest every game. So I just feel that those 3 reasons are the 3 main reasons why this shouldn't matter, why it hopefully doesn't matter. It is good for a lot of the players who will be coming back that they don't have an 11-game losing streak. Like it shouldn't matter. But the fact that it might, it feels like an indictment on the culture right now, but hopefully it just does, it doesn't matter. We'll never know. We'll never know if having an 11-game losing streak moving into the next season really would have affected how they played. But I'm glad we don't have to worry about it now. That is the one thing. You don't have to worry about the fact that the culture is still not going to be, or that losing streak will be looming over the team. And a final reason is that I don't think it matters. It's not a strong reason at all, but it really didn't affect the Packers' playoff seeding. It's something tangible where you can say, oh yeah, the game mattered. If Washington would have lost and the Packers would have won, then the Packers are playing someone else, not the Eagles, in the first round of the playoffs. But since Washington ended up winning, this game really didn't matter in any seeding. It does matter in draft position, like I mentioned earlier, but how much does it matter? We won't quite know until after the draft. So for all those reasons, I hope that this game didn't matter, and I don't feel like it really did. Before we start talking about and putting the Bears 15, that's a lot, head coaching candidates into a tier list and start talking about the Bears' position with this head coaching search and hopefully hire soon. Before we do that, just want to remind you to click the subscribe button down below. Leave a like, leave a comment if you disagree and think that win against the Packers really did matter. Let me know why you disagree with me down there, and maybe we can talk about it on the next video. And let me know if you disagree with anything or agree with my tiers, how I kind of classify them here in this next segment, and what you think of my tiers, and if you think there's anyone else who the Bears should be considering, or if you think 15 candidates like me is just a little bit too many. So the first 2 of the 15 candidates are going to be in the A tier. These are the 1A and 1B of this hiring cycle for pretty much every team who's looking to hire a head coach. Obviously, they are Ben Johnson, offensive coordinator of the Lions, and Mike Vrabel. I believe he was a consultant for the Browns this season. His contract is now up. He is a coaching free agent, and because of that, the Bears actually interviewed him today. I'm filming this on Wednesday, so they had a virtual interview with Vrabel today. But like I said, I'm filming this on Wednesday, so if there's any news that has dropped that I don't talk about, don't mention, it is because I'm filming this on Wednesday. As a programming note before we move forward, I will be looking to move this show up in the week, as it is now the off season, and it'll be closer to when I can film now that it is the off season. So look for that in the next coming weeks for this not to be posted on Friday, but maybe Thursday or Wednesday. I haven't nailed down exactly when the post will be happening yet, but look for that moving forward. So as I said, A, top candidates, 1A, 1B, Ben Johnson and Mike Vrabel. They're the best candidates for everyone. Vrabel had a virtual interview, like I said, with the Bears today. Ben Johnson sounds like he might be interviewing Friday or Saturday for the Bears. Ben Johnson, of course, his team is in the playoffs, but since they have a bye for the wild card round, he will be able to interview with the Bears. Same thing for a candidate in the B tier. These are good coaches. I think they'd be good hires, but they're not the top tier. I don't think they're the best options that are out there. And that would be Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn, defensive coordinator for the Lions. He's also going to be interviewing with the Bears on Friday or Saturday. There's been a little discrepancy about when exactly that interview will happen, but he will be interviewing with the Bears. Once again, able to interview because Lions have a bye in the wild card round. Also, someone they will not be able to interview during this wild card week before the wild card is Brian Flores. He is the defensive coordinator for the Vikings. I have him in the B category. Obviously, he's already been a head coach, which I really like, and he has a lot of success with that Vikings defense. He has made that defense really, really good, in spite of not having a ton of great talent. Obviously, some talented players there, but not having those really big name talented players there, and that Vikings defense has been very, very good. Same thing with Aaron Glenn. They have some big names on the Lions defense, but tons and tons and tons of injuries on that Lions defense, and they shut down the high-powered Vikings defense on Week 18 and that big Sunday Night Football game. They got shut down after losing more and more players seemingly every single week on that Lions defense. They still play elite, which is super, super impressive for Aaron Glenn. And I think it's a big attribute of a coach to be able to take a injury-plagued team and put them out there and have them play at an elite level, because injuries are going to happen every single year. They're going to happen in every single position. And to be able to find solid backups or to find a scheme that helps maybe not the top talent players continue to go out there and play it at an elite level as a group is super impressive, and is a skill that will serve any team, especially here in football where those injuries happen so often, will serve any team very, very well. The final candidate I have in the B tier, Todd Monken, that is the offensive coordinator for the Ravens. Yes, he is working with who will probably be the MVP, Lamar Jackson, different quarterback from Caleb, uber talented, great runner. One good thing, it's a run-first offense. He might be a candidate who's like, oh, if you had Justin, right, like he would be a perfect candidate. I still think he can be a really good candidate. Ravens offense has been good. And part of the thing I like about him having success with Lamar is not your average quarterback, right? He has some very special skills, which means he will have to change the offense if he wants to come over here and be with Caleb and teach Caleb. But that means that he's able to adapt his offense to the players he has, at his disposal. And that's really what was missing here in Chicago. It feels like with Shane Waldron. It feels like that was missing with Matt Nagy. So finding a coach who has that ability and proven ability would be absolutely great, a great addition for the Bears, and would be, I feel, a good head coaching hire who will obviously have a lot of control over the offense and the offense that is implemented as the next head coach gets into their role here in Chicago. C tier. These are people who I kind of feel non-committal about. Obviously, would want the best of the best, 1A, 1B, Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel. Obviously, those are the players you're going to want in this coaching cycle. But if you can't have them, if you can't get your B candidates, they don't want to leave, whatever the reason is, these are the next best. Joe Brady, offensive coordinator for the Bills. The one thing that concerns me about Joe Brady, about this hire, is when you have Josh Allen and you have a solid line, when you have the players in place and you are kind of successful, like this isn't like the Ben Johnson. The Ben Johnson argument is he has a lot of great players. One of the best lines, one of the best linemen, some great wide receiver duos, probably the best 1-2 running back punch in all of football, a very solid veteran quarterback in Jared Goff. What is he going to do when he comes to Chicago? That's the knock. But Ben Johnson has been the owner of the best offense for the past 3 seasons. You don't get there by just having talented players. You also have to have a really good scheme. Joe Brady feels like he has some of the players, or has had a lot of the players, and has a decent output. Doesn't have that top tier, wow, eye-popping output that you would hope you find with a head coach candidate that Ben Johnson does have with that top talent. That's why that's why Joe Brady's in the C tier. That's why he's in the kind of average tier, but would still be okay with the higher, just wouldn't be as excited, right? That's why he exists in that tier, is just because even with the uber talented Josh Allen and with some talented receivers and with some good running backs with a decent line, it still feels like maybe the scheme isn't putting those players in the best position to have the best offensive output. Also in the C tier, Pete Carroll. This is almost purely about age. Pete Carroll has won a Super Bowl, super established coach, has been there before, has done it. The problem is the Bears hope that Caleb Williams is their quarterback for the next 10 years, and he's shown some of the attributes that a quarterback for the next 10 years is going to need. And you want to have a coach that's going to be with him for the next 10 years and have them be successful together. Right? Pete Carroll is 74. In 10 years, he's going to be 84. I don't think he's going to be coaching the Bears. So what's the worst case scenario if you hire Pete Carroll? Well, the worst case scenario is obviously everything comes crumbling to the ground. But with a successful hiring of Pete Carroll, in 3, 4, 5 years, you're probably going to be in another head coaching search, even if you made the playoffs for 5 straight years. Even if you won a Super Bowl, obviously you want to go back, but at some point Pete Carroll is going to be 80. He's going to want to get out of the game, or the Bears are going to be like, we don't want an 80-year-old on the sideline. Whatever it is, I don't think he's going to be around in 10 years to be the coach for the Bears, which is obviously the hope. So that's why he's in the C category. I think he could be a great coach. I think the Bears could have success with him. And really, he'd be in the B category, but it just feels like he's not going to be able to, if the Bears are successful, he's not going to be able to deliver on what the Bears want long-term wise. The D tier is going to be a man alone, Mike McCarthy. This is like the please no tier. Like Mike McCarthy, I think he could come here and be successful. I understand that the Cowboys have blocked the Bears' request to interview, but the McCarthy contract is up on the 14th, from my understanding. So if there's not an extension between McCarthy and the Cowboys by the 14th, then the Bears will be able to request personally just to him to have an interview. And he might decline, but I have a feeling that if an extension's not done with the Cowboys, obviously he will accept and take an interview, as long as the Bears haven't narrowed down their search to not include him anymore. Mike McCarthy, I just feel like the Bears are kind of similar to the Cowboys. They have some talent, a lot of high hopes heading into every season, and they're not quite there. They always fall apart. Something always goes wrong. It doesn't feel like Mike McCarthy is if he couldn't fix the Cowboys with what feels like more established talent, I don't know what leads me to believe he's going to be able to fix the Bears with less established talent. Moving on to the E tier, these are guys that I'm like, please, I don't know, just don't hire them. I don't think it would work, right? Anthony Weaver, Arthur Smith. Arthur Smith, of course, is the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and Anthony Weaver is the offensive coordinator for the Dolphins, I believe, or is it defensive coordinator? He's a coordinator for the Dolphins. Not a fan of really either one of those guys. Steelers offense wasn't great. Not sure why you would have the Steelers offensive coordinator come in and try to get a job. Anthony Weaver looks like he's the offensive coordinator. It just doesn't excite me, right? Dolphins defense feels like it's more star-studded. Dolphins offense feels like it's kind of run by McDaniels down there. Missed the playoffs. Don't know why you'd really want a coordinator from the Dolphins. They just kind of seem like maybe mediocre, slipping into the playoffs every other year. Just nothing about a coordinator from there really excites me. Maybe I just don't know enough about Anthony Weaver, but not really excited by either one of those names. Don't think they would really do much here in Chicago. Also in the E tier, Matt Campbell, head coach of the Iowa State Cyclones. Just in fairness, I'm a Cyclone fan, so I've seen Matt Campbell. I'm a huge fan of Matt Campbell. He creates a really good culture in Iowa State and has really turned the program around. He did just sign a pretty lengthy extension, I think, through 2032 with the Cyclones. So would have to kind of work out that contract. As a Cyclones fan, I don't want him to leave. But as a Bears fan, I don't want to hire any college head coach. People talk about how difficult the adjustment is for quarterbacks coming out of college because the game is so much different. Now imagine running an entire NFL football, not organization, but at least team, probably is the best way to say it, and how different that is. And for some reason that's not a concern for people, I guess. Or it is a concern, but not enough to keep them out of the college football coaching pool. I just have zero interest in seeing a college head coach of any kind, even if Matt Campbell is one of the best college head coaches in the country. I have zero interest in seeing him coach the Chicago Bears because I don't want any college head coach taking the job, especially when the Bears have had so many coaching misses. It just doesn't feel very advisable. And on top of that, I always wonder about how they're going to build a staff in the NFL. The F tier, this looks like some of the worst candidates for the job, the ones that I would really struggle to have a lot of optimism about if they were hired. This is David Shaw. From my understanding, he hasn't coached for 2 years. When he was done coaching at Stanford, wasn't that successful, and is a NFL executive. Have no idea why he's in the head coaching discussion for the Chicago Bears. Thomas Brown, he just didn't do enough in his opportunity. He got put in a really hard place to prove himself at all. But he didn't really get. Even though he was in a hard place, he didn't take advantage of that opportunity. Would have had to win more games. It's just hard to justify a coach that only won one of the last 5 games, I believe, who was the head coach of the Bears. Drew Predsing, I believe that's how you say his name. He interviewed actually tonight, the night I'm filming. Haven't heard anything about that interview except that it was supposed to happen tonight. Offensive coordinator for the Cardinals. Once again, just not super excited about the Cardinals offense. It didn't really do well this year, and not super excited about it. And then Mike Teafa, I don't know exactly how to say it. He is the offensive coordinator for the Giants, I believe. And why we are interviewing anyone from the Giants makes zero sense to me. Giants also, I mean, they had a worse year than the Bears. Pretty sure. Don't have the stats in front of me, but I'm almost positive they had a worse year than the Bears. Their offense has looked like it's been in shambles for about the same amount of time as the Bears. So really not sure why they're even being considered. But that's how I break down the tiers. Once again, A, Ben Johnson, Mike Vrabel. B, Brian Flores, Aaron Glenn, Todd Monken. C, Joe Brady, Pete Carroll. D, Mike McCarthy. E, Anthony Weaver, Matt Campbell, Arthur Smith. And F, David Shaw, Thomas Brown, Drew Petzing, and Mike Kafka. So that is how it breaks down. Want to thank each and every one of you guys for joining me. That's going to wrap up the show. We are running out of time very quickly here. Would have had more news, but I don't want to keep you guys any longer here. So until next time, for the Lindeman Show, I'm Cody Lindeman, signing off.